Hey, Mr. Weaver, Tyler Barron here with our semester summary. I know it's been a crazy semester. It didn't nearly go how we all thought it would. Not nearly as much stuff, but it's all right. We deal with the hand we're given, and we make the best of it. So to start out, I'll go back and review a little bit of what we did in week 1 and 2. So, like in the weekly summary, we had the resources and the discussions, the late start and whatnot. This is obviously what I was just referring to. Kind of didn't allow us to get as much done. Originally, I thought it would be similar to the fall semester, but obviously you had some unforeseen circumstances, and even myself included, when it comes to I broke my hand and being in the ER for a little while. So just stuff like that obviously was detriment to a little bit of what we were doing, so it did slow us down for sure. But we still got through all that. Week 2, we had the Internet of Things discussion and the AI discussion, which I loved both those. And then I also referred to how I hadn't done the 3D design, but was still planning on it. I actually completed that yesterday, and I had a lot of fun with that. I've had some experience with design, not on Tinkercad. I am certified in SolidWorks, but I don't have access to SolidWorks at the moment, so I did use Tinkercad to do that. And I actually sent you a message as well because I wasn't sure if you wanted us to submit a picture of that or if it was just for practice and to talk to you about it. So I did end up doing that. I chose the dome because I was interested in how to get the spherical 3D as opposed to just hard corners and whatnot like the leaf would have given. So I had fun with that, messing with that. Took a little bit more time than I thought, but still got it done pretty quickly with the help of the Logger Pro and getting the measurements right and all that. So that was a good practice for designing representations of physical objects, as you mentioned. For Module 3, we had the Earth Day, talking and testing, and how that's not learning, and that was my favorite one from that Module 3, just because, like I said, I think the schooling system's kind of outdated, because the way we currently teach, it's as if we're preparing kids to go work in a factory for memorization, and that's not what it should be about anymore, because that's not the careers people are looking for anymore. I did complete the Competencies Quiz, so in that, I submitted 2 different documents, one of the competencies that I had evidence for that I have achieved this semester, and then the other few were the ones that weren't achieved, and I put a note in there for the ones that weren't achieved, because what you were requesting was what competencies we hadn't achieved or hadn't obtained evidence for yet, and how you can help us to get them. I noted that I was pretending as if this wasn't near the end of the semester, to where if the semester was still going, what you would be able to do to supply us with the things so we could finish those competencies. Obviously, that's not actually possible, but I went ahead and listed what help you would have needed to give in order to achieve those, and what things me and my team would have had to do on our own to achieve those things. So that's pretty much everything we went over in that previous summary. Everything new that you added, the 2 things, were the exotic energies and the quantum computing. So for the exotic energies, I wanted to talk about the cold fusion because I found that super interesting when I was reading the Wikipedia article that you linked, and what the thing I talked about in my post that I found the most interesting was that many scientists tried to recreate the same experiment, but what I noticed is that no one tried to come up with a new experiment, which is obviously easier said than done, and so it's not like you can just come up with a new experiment to develop something that doesn't exist yet. However, it's something that, from what I could find online, hasn't even been attempted, and so I would think that we should give it a shot at least to find a new way to develop cold fusion, as opposed to just relying on doing the same experiment over and over again until you get it exactly right to how the first 2 scientists did it, if they even did it at all. So that's what I found super interesting. Brandon, I really liked his post about the policies for energy that's 100% renewable, and how he said that he believes new technology should always be pushed. Um, I, I slightly disagreed with that because I don't think all technology is necessarily good at first, and I think it depends on who has access to it and stuff like that. And so it shouldn't necessarily just be pushed, because then you could be giving it to the government alone, and that's not necessarily a good idea. But other than that, I do still really agree with his overall point that developing a new technology is not a bad idea. Moving on to the quantum computing, I did like this discussion that we all had on this one. I didn't know really what quantum computing was. I basically just assumed it was a stronger supercomputer, which in a sense it is. It's stronger than a supercomputer, but it's not a stronger version of a supercomputer. And that's what I came to find out, is that a supercomputer, the way I would like to word it, answers problems linearly. So they go one problem at a time in a if you have a problem that's complex enough that you need to attempt something 100 times to find the right answer, it does it one at a time. A quantum computer doesn't do that. It comes up with it, or it has algorithms to do it not necessarily all at once, but in a much faster and more efficient way. And so I gave a couple articles, and one of them, the way they explained it was that if you have 100 options and you need to find one of that 100, a supercomputer would likely look at all of them or every other option, whereas a quantum computer might look at the square root of them. So if it's 100, then it's going to be 10. And so their estimate for that problem was that a supercomputer would take a week to do what a quantum computer could do in 1 second. And I think that's really cool. You mentioned that it could be a security risk, and from what I found, you're right, there are risks for it because it can turn a high bit key into really low bits that are hackable. But what I found on a counterpoint is that there is technology that has already been developed and is used in some public keys that prevent quantum hacking in that way. And so it's quantum safe, and that's how it's advertised. So for the level of quantum computers we have now, if it ever got to a point where they were used so often that it became a serious threat, we have the technology to move over to quantum safe keys. It's just whether or not we'd be able to do it in time before sustaining a lot of damage to whatever they were hacking. So, I mean, that really pretty much sums up everything we did this semester. Obviously, we didn't get to do like much problem solving or like presentations of actual projects or anything like that. But with what we had, I definitely had fun with it. And I think that's the big thing, is having fun and learning. I don't think getting 100% on a test is what makes you a good student. I think soaking in the knowledge and the information is what makes you a good student. So last thing I would like to talk about is just the teams. I think both Carson and Yarden were great partners. We didn't do much together, but I reached out to them to get a team set because that's what we thought we were going to have to do. And any questions I had regarding like the computer models or the 3D modeling practice, they were able to help with, and I was able to help with them for questions they had. And so I think having the teams, just as a recommendation for next semester, is a really good idea. It allows people to communicate and talk to one another and see things from a different perspective sometimes. And so I think that definitely helps somebody to learn and gain that knowledge that I was talking about. So I think that's definitely a great thing. I guess that would be it for this semester. So hopefully I'll be in the future engineering classes, be in one of your classes in the fall again. I'm not I haven't looked into or scheduled my classes for next semester quite yet because I'm working around a schedule at the moment, but I'm definitely going to get that done, and hopefully I can get in one of your classes. So hopefully I'll talk to you next semester, but until then, that'll do it for this semester summary. So I hope you have a great summer and a good rest of the semester, obviously, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.